And Deepesh, you started in 2007, right? And now you are at 700 crore AUM, and your SIF AUM is, friends, 20 crores, right? So big round of applause for Deepesh. So this brings me to my first question. What opportunities did you see which others don't?
Okay, good afternoon. I think a few data points CAMS had released about 2 months back in one of the Cafe Mutual event. Okay, and you will be very surprised to know these data points. The first data point says that about 1,500 investors who never invested in mutual funds came to SIF as their first investment. So they bypassed mutual funds and they came to SIF. That's one. 53% of SIF AUM is from B30 cities. 70% of SIF AUM is in regular plans. So just imagine, the market, which is so huge, and 70% is coming through distributors, whether it's an RIA code distributed or an MFD, it doesn't matter. So, these are the data points which actually are coming now. But when the SIF was launched in April 2025, I was the first person in Bengaluru to actually clear SIF exam, because I knew that, this is going to click and it's going to go big. How did I decide this? Just like how Aditya said, I'll give you an example. So you have Taj hotels. On one end, you have the luxury Taj hotels, and the other one, you have Ginger hotels. Okay, the Ginger hotel cost about 5,000-6,000, and then the luxury Taj hotel cost about 20,000 plus. So there's a missing gap which all families aspire to actually take their families. कि मुझे Taj में जाना. Then Taj brought Vivanta, and then that Vivanta actually fixed the gap which Taj had, in their bouquet of hotels. Similarly, I felt that there is one product like an arbitrage fund, debt funds, or FDs, which is giving about 6% return, and then you have balance advantage fund, which starts at 10-11% return, of course with volatility. Then there's a gap which was actually missing, where the investor wanted about 8%, 7% kind of return, and that is where, this hybrid long short strategies will actually fill that gap. I discovered that, and I knew that this will pick up. I gave the exam and hence started doing this continuously. And in fact, in Bangalore, I was the first person to put my own application in an AMC which actually originally launched the equity long short SIF.
Beautiful analogy, Deepesh. Deepesh, my next question is about the mindset. So you know that mutual funds are fairly simple products. Whenever market goes up and NAV goes up, so do our commission, right? But SIFs are different. यहाँ पैसा बनेगा जब market गिर रहा है. We are not familiar with this kind of mindset. Then how did you change your mindset for SIFs?
Okay, so like you said that I started in 2007. So I was thinking that what if SIF were in 2007, and then in 2008, our brokerage would have gone up significantly higher. Because the market fell by 60%, and if fund manager had shorted by 25%, we would have definitely made money on that. So the point that I wanted to drive is that most investors, we have been actually telling investors that पैसा डालो 12-13%, 100 रुपया में स्टॉक खरीदेगा फंड मैनेजर, 100 का 120 हो जाएगा, पैसा बनेगा. But if you look globally, there's a big market for funds which actually make money when market corrects, and those are those hedge funds, short funds. And globally, every investor looks their portfolio more from a capital protection point of view. Only in India we look कि कितना देगा, and that's what we look. But the real thing that an investor actually looks, when you actually talk to an investor who's having 50 crores, 70 crores, 100 crores, he's okay with 7% inflation. Inflation के ऊपर मुझे 2-3% मिल गया मेरा पूरा portfolio के ऊपर, I'm happy with this. But it is we who tell customer that इसमें 20 मिल जाएगा, इसमें 24 मिल जाएगा. That's what we go and we actually spoil our customers. Realistically speaking, a customer need only 12% in a year, and we say that हमको साल में 2 बार आपको दे सकते हैं, rather than once.
Great response. So my next question is related to compliance part. So there is some ambiguity among MFDs. Will MFDs need to do separate risk profiling for SIFs? If yes, how to approach this?
I haven't read any circular which says that there has to be a separate risk profile needed, because I go with that point that SIF was in Gazette, was published in the Gazette of India, which is under the in the Gazette of India under the mutual fund route. And if something is in the mutual fund route, whatever rules apply in the mutual fund also applies for SIF. So there's no separate risk profile that's needed. But more than that, that risk profile is from a compliance point of view. We need to do a separate understanding of risk of what the customer can actually absorb that risk. Okay. So like today, I'll give an example that all the funds are allowed to do shorting. But if you see except one AMC, none of the AMC does shorting in SIF. Because when I speak to a fund manager, he says that I do a shorting on a Friday, and between Friday to Monday, if something good news comes, how am I going to protect that 25% of my shorting? So no fund managers are actually doing it, which means that the fund manager is also not taking that kind of risk in the portfolio. That's one of the answer here, and I don't think a separate risk profile is also needed. We just have to see that an equity long short will come into the aggressive portfolio, and then hybrid long short will come in and balanced portfolio.
And who can be the ideal client segment for SIFs?
Okay, I think we can look this more from an demographic profile, from an income profile, and another data which CAMS released says that the SIF AM will be about 5 lakh crore in about 2-3 years. And then somebody asked how. Then they said that about 1.5 lakh crore will come from mutual funds to SIF. So money which is there in arbitrage fund, debt funds will start slowly moving to SIF as investors get confidence into SIF. That's about 1.5 lakh crore will come. Another 3.5 lakh crore will come from the bank deposits, the AIFs, which people were not really happy, even though, and then PMS, where people are not happy because from the taxation point of view, though they wanted something different. And then fixed deposits, the bonds, bonds which are trading at double A, single A. So that money is going to come to SIF. So that's from that point of view. The second one is that, at least at my firm, I looked at if somebody is coming with a minimum, investable surplus of about 75 lakhs, only then we give an SIF, because 10 lakh by 75 lakh is about 15%. So unless you don't see an investor who's having a potential of investment of 75 lakh rupees, do not recommend an SIF. Because if the investor is coming 25 lakhs and if you're giving in 10 lakh rupees of check, then you're building a concentration risk in the portfolio. So from an investor ticket point of view, though the SEBI regulation says 10 lakhs and above, make sure that your investor have minimum 75 lakhs of investments surplus. In that 75 lakh rupees, let's say 40 lakh is with you and 30 lakh is in FD. That's fine. But his total net worth should not be less than 75 lakhs. That's one.
You answered the question that what kind of client should not be sold SIS as well.
Yes.
Great.
One more point. If you look another data, about 2,000 non-individual investors have already invested in SIF. And out of 2,000 non-individual investors, about 600 are trusts and charitable trusts. Charitable trusts are the most toughest entity to crack, because they have so many approvals that can be taken from the trustees, and there are about 400 charitable trusts who have invested big amount of money, and the average AUM per investor is about 21 lakh rupees. So the investor is not starting with 10 lakh, he's starting with about 21 lakhs.
Great insights, Deepesh. So one thing that MFD should know before recommending SIS.
Yeah, like we all know all BAFs are different. Balance advantage funds are different. One AMC BAF and other AMC BAFs are totally different. Similarly, even if an AMC says XYZ long equity hybrid long short fund and another AMC says ABC hybrid long short fund, do not assume that both are same and do an comparison ki inka return zyada, inka return kam hai karke. The best way to understand SIF is that have a call with a fund manager and understand what is he going to do, because the devil is in the details. The moment the fund manager says that I am doing this, for example, there is one SIF who says that I'm not going to short anything. I'm just going to give my customer an arbitrage kind of return. That's it. So then I understood that whom is this meant for. Another AMC says that I'm going to have 5% of this hybrid long short, 5% will be into naked equity. Then I know that it is more like an equity saving product. So like if you understand these different products from different fund houses and then go and talk to your customer and understand his requirements, you will be definitely be able to match the requirements. In the school, we had that match the following, right? In class 3. On left hand side we had something, right? So on left hand side you have customers, right hand side you have your schemes. Just match it and then you will never go wrong in your SIF allocation.
One last question. One skill set needed to sell SIF efficiently.
Okay, so I think it's a good question. I could say it's objection handling. A customer will have a lot of objections to say that nai. So because the money definitely has to come from somewhere, like an FD, or a customer thinks that this is a new product, why should I go and do it? I think you need to be prepared and write a script of about 10-15 objections what a customer could have in an SIF. So for all those objections, you should have an answer beforehand. I remember that guy who used to come and sell us a dictionary, and then you say that nahi chahiye bhai. Then he used to say that gift ke liye le lo. Then you said nahi chahiye. Then he said किसी और को मतलब ये गिफ्ट कर सकते हो, मतलब ये डोनेट कर सकते हो. So he had all the answers for all the notes that you had. Like that, if you have all the objections, then objections scripted, the responses for that, then I think it's easy to actually sell this SIF.
We can use it in mutual funds as well.
And nowadays I don't think we need, because mutual fund has done its job rightly. Mutual fund सही है, so अभी objection नहीं आता है, बस अभी सिर्फ handling करना पड़ता है.
Great. With that, we have come to an end to this interesting session. A huge round of applause from Deepesh, friends.